This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech players in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
So this is part one of our Money2020 EU takeover, live from the Moneypot stage for those who are at the conference. And it'll be ready to listen to on all streaming platforms on June 9th. So this episode dives into how payments are evolving to meet the demands of modern day economies, and from redefining the role of cards to rethinking how we deliver seamless, secure, and scalable experiences. The conversation will touch on tokenization, embedded finance, and the risks of digital wallets and the rise of digital wallets. So today I have Jeff Parker here from Paymentology. He's the CEO, and you joined Paymentology in December, I think, of 2023. Can you tell us about what Paymentology does first, please?
Sure. So, well, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here at Money2020 this year. I joined about 18 months ago, and Paymentology is what we call, I guess, the leading next generation issuer processor. We help fintechs, digital banks, and retail banks to launch and manage innovative payment solutions. So that's primarily debit, credit, prepaid card processing.
Okay, and you've mentioned in the past that the vision of Paymentology is to be the most digitally advanced insurer and processor in the world. What
Correct.
Does that mean to you?
Look, it's a mouthful, as you can say. Look, to me, if you take a step back, the world is clearly on this digitalization journey. Wherever you are in the world, whatever country you're in, everything is moving towards digital and the mobile phone. And so when we think about the experiences that we're trying to develop for our customers, we always start with the customer. And the customer wants to have the most advanced, seamless, rich, personalized user experiences. And so with that as the goal, we kind of then think about how do we support that from a technology perspective. And so from the ground up, we built a digital-first, cloud-based, API-first infrastructure. And then on top of that, we lay in kind of the world's most advanced tokenization capability, so the ability to instantly issue virtual cards, to be able to put that into Apple Pay, Google Pay, or whatever pay you want, to be able to give the user the ability to have dynamic controls that they can set for their own use cases. So whether that's spend limits, MCC codes, whether that's disputing transactions. And so we're constantly looking at how do we deliver that digital experience. Clearly in markets like the UK, it's in Europe, they're much more advanced than maybe some of the other markets. But ultimately, I think everyone is on that same journey, which is deliver everything digital, make it as personalized as possible, and make it configurable. And that's what we're trying to do.
And that sounds very far along on the journey. And I know that you have about 50 countries that you're supporting now. So how far are you in the other parts of the journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say you're never there, and I think that's the fun part. And if you ever felt you'd kind of completed things, it'd be time to walk away. But you're right, we are, I think, a very global company. We've got clients in over 50 countries now. We have a very clear view in terms of how we want to enhance that proposition and deliver those digital experiences to customers. But we still have a long way to go. There's better user experiences we can do. There's more controls, more personalization that we can do. There's a lot more in terms of product innovation that we want to do. We've just launched a new credit product, which is super exciting. And then in the back end, because I don't think we should expect or ignore the back end. I think there's huge amounts we can do more around automation and efficiencies, and that's where things like obviously the buzzwords around AI and things come into it. So I think we're well progressed compared to where the market sits today, but I hope we're a long way from where we will be in a few years' time.
So in the past, you've talked about different regions that are key to you, like EU, MENA, Africa, APAC, and LATAM. So of those kinds of regions, where are you seeing, the biggest growth opportunities?
I think this is actually one of the most exciting things for us as a business. I think most issuer processors historically that have grown, and especially modern ones, have what we would call a hero client, and that client has really kind of progressed or propelled them to strong growth. We don't really have that. We have kind of what we call a hero segment around digital banking, and alongside fintechs, we've got strong presence of fintechs and digital banks around the world in all of our regions. Africa is our single biggest market because of the history of the business, but actually across the world we've got great growth. So in Africa we support Time Bank, which has just been invested in by Nubank. They're the first black-owned bank that's become a unicorn, and they're growing extremely fast. Their sister company, GoTime, in the Philippines, is the fastest digital bank growth in the Philippines. In the Middle East, we support two of the fastest growing digital banks, VO Bank in the UAE, D360 in Saudi Arabia. We have Mox, which is a very fast growing digital bank in Hong Kong. We've got some large fintechs as well in Europe. C24 is a great name that we work with, which is one of the fastest growing digital banks in Germany. So it's unfortunately, to answer your question, it's actually very broad-based, our growth, which is exciting.
I love having those examples, and I remember in one of the examples, I think it was the Philippines, that 2/3 of the user growth was driven by having kiosks in actual stores. And I thought, that's so interesting, right? So a lot of Europe has gone away from having actual physical locations, and then you see other places where having them in different stores can help drive the growth. So I love that.
I think that's one of those exciting things for us. I think being so globally spread, we see lots of different use cases and adaptations of other models that maybe work in some markets, not in other markets. And financial inclusion is a big part of what we do as an organisation. And GoTime's a great example, as you say. They have brought banking financial services to a portion of the population that just was never given the opportunity. And this ability to literally go in and fill your KYC in a kiosk, almost like a photo booth, and get your card printed in kind of 3 minutes flat, to then have access to services that they would never have access to before. It's super powerful, and it actually is transforming economies and GDP. So we're very excited to be part of it.
Well, that is really exciting. I mean, I love the financial inclusion aspect and banking people who had never been banked before. Do you have any idea what percentage of your clients are like that, or your clients' clients, or like these new unbanked folks?
So the background of the business, actually, while we are headquartered in the UK now, the background is really 3 businesses that came together. So there was a business called Paymentology, obviously, which was very much a tech-driven organization. Then there was really the bulk of the business, which is a business called Tatuka, which was founded in South Africa and had very much of an emerging markets background. And that business grew to over 40 different markets. And so actually, at this point in time, probably 60% is from, I would say, kind of the emerging markets sector. And then we actually bought a business called Mia Wallet, which is this leading tokenization, digitalization piece. And so when we put all those 3 together, we think we've come up with a pretty compelling proposition that hopefully our clients agree with.
So I can imagine, and that it's very unique compared to what else is out there. So now I'm going to go to where you worked before. So you were at Marqeta and World First, and internationalization was really key on the agenda there. When you started Paymentology, what was the international footprint like in the beginning?
It's super interesting, and actually one of the main things that attracted me to Paymentology was the global footprint. As you rightly point out, for those that are listening, I'm from the UK, you can probably tell, but I've been fortunate enough to work and live abroad. So I've lived in the US, I've worked for a US fintech, I've lived in Australia and worked for an Australian fintech, I've worked in Hong Kong and worked for a Chinese fintech. So coming back to the UK, I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have that kind of global footprint. And I think building global businesses, it's the market expansion, which is one of the hardest things to do. Once you're in those markets, it then becomes more of an execution challenge about how do you penetrate into those markets. And kudos to Rowan Brewer, who's kind of the founder of Tatuka. He did a lot of that hard work before I joined. So when I joined, we were already very global. We were in over 40 countries. But that opportunity to take what the foundations of, build on that from a capability and a functionality, and hopefully accelerate the penetration was one of the key reasons that I wanted to join. So I was very fortunate what I inherited.
And when will you be happy with the number of countries you're in? Is there like we want to have that many countries by this time? Is there something like that you're looking forward to?
I think the simple answer is never. I think I don't know. I think my personality and what drives me is it's good and bad. Is that you're never satisfied. It's kind of it's a constant challenge to build businesses, to do more and to try and go into new markets. So we've just received our commercial registration in Saudi Arabia last week, which is super exciting for us.
Wow.
I think we're the first kind of foreign overseas issuer processor to get that. We will look to move into the US next year with some of our clients that are asking us to move there. We try and have a number of kind of underlying countries that we focus on to really benefit, but ultimately, I think that's the fun is kind of growing both the footprint and the product.
So when I asked ChatGPT about you and your biggest competitor, of course they said Marqeta. So what I want to know is how you're different.
So I've been lucky enough to hire a couple of people from Marqeta as well. So some of my team is also from Marqeta. I think there's things that are different with Marqeta, but I think there's also things which make us different to other issuer processors. The first thing is the global footprint. I don't think there's any other modern issuer processor that has live clients in 50 countries. Many people we speak to tell us that they could serve clients in many countries, but actually having live clients in over 50 countries, I think is pretty unique. I think our ability to also localize where required. So we have, I think, a unique ability to be able to integrate into local domestic switches. So in 8 countries around the world, J1 in the UAE, MADA in Saudi Arabia, BankNet in the Philippines, we are not only supporting Visa and MasterCard, but we're supporting local domestic switches. And that's super powerful for a couple of reasons. One is some markets demand it, so the regulators, it's a requirement. So if you don't do that, you can't operate in that region. There's a cost aspect to doing that. So processing on domestic schemes is typically much cheaper. So you can be able to switch between the two is important. And then increasingly, I think we're seeing just the macro political environment is that countries are wanting more control over their sovereignty, and so wanting to be exposed or not wanting to be exposed to international payment systems is becoming increasingly important. So that's another big thing for us. The third thing I think is tech. We are 100%. We own our stack end to end. Many other providers are licensing third-party software. Some of them are actually reselling our products under a different brand. And so I think that ability to be in control of your product roadmap, to be able to localize where a client demands it, not have to go on, ask a third party to prioritize that roadmap is important. And then just a couple more things which I think differentiate us. One is our people. We have not only do we have clients in 50 countries, but we have staff in 60 countries. And so when a client says to us, how are you going to support us and service us and be there for us, we can provide someone who's in the country, who's a payment expert, they know the local market, they can be there at the end of the phone. And I think, we all sell the technology, we all talk about being a technology business, but ultimately we sell to people and we're enterprises, and I think people need to have confidence in people. So they're probably some of the few things I'd think about.
And maybe the geographies as well. You serve a little bit different geographies, though. Interesting that you're now thinking going into the U.S. client-driven.
Correct, 100%. I think the US is one of those markets you can spend tens of millions of dollars and not get much return. And so we want to be very thoughtful when we go into the US, and we'll do that with following existing clients that want us to go there.
What I think I also liked when we talked earlier is how you're able to help your clients to determine what could be some other regions to grow in and to use different services in.
Actually, that's great. I should employ you because I think you know more about this than me. But it's a great interest. We are very lucky that we have fintechs, digital banks, similar use cases. We're strong in expense management or remittance, and we can bring those clients that do operate in those markets from different countries, and so they're not necessarily in competition with each other. So we can bring, the CEOs or the C-suite of a digital bank from Latin America. We can bring one from Africa. We can bring one from Asia, and being able to get them to talk and share ideas and talk about how they can increase acceptance, what's working, what's not working, look at the data we've got, see what the spend patterns are like. and being able to use that to draw insights, to then play that back to our clients and help them drive growth is seen as really, really valuable. And I think one of the things that we're introducing this year is a Paymentology kind of community forum where we'll bring those people together for a few days to share those ideas, and that's been received really positively.
I can imagine. I mean, that's a huge benefit because otherwise you wouldn't have those kinds of insights. How can you get that? And that's something very, very unique. So I work with a lot of fintechs. How large does a fintech really need to be to come knocking at your door and say, hey, we'd like to work with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we don't have a set rule. We have a number of criteria that we kind of look at when we're assessing clients. Clearly, they're trying to assess us at the same time as well. But some of those are we look at how much funding they've got. We look at their product, how we think that kind of compares to others in the market, and so we form our own assessment of how we think they're going to be as a business, and that obviously drives some of our decision making. Typically, our clients are probably in the larger side of fintechs, and as we go into banks, obviously they become bigger still. For the really small ones or the smaller ones that we decide, look, we just don't think we're the best to serve them. We do have a number of what we call resellers who are integrated into our platform, and we pass those on. We refer those to our resellers, and those resellers just have a different business model that enables them to sign and service those smaller ones in a more cost-effective way. And then from a Paymentology perspective, we still benefit because we still get the transactions to flow through our integrations.
I think that's super. And, that way of, even from the fintechs, to be able to have an efficient way of entering new markets. So you don't have to just be huge unicorn. You can still help those folks. What I also liked was that within weeks, you can launch.
So we have, we ultimately we're a very critical part of our clients' kind of value proposition, and because of that, it's longer sales cycle, longer implementation cycle than a typical kind of B2C product. But we do have, we typically aim to get clients live with between 3 to 6 months, but we have had cases where they've done it in 3-4 weeks if people are ready and we can kind of align. There's often other dependencies like licensing, etc., which if our client doesn't have and they have to go and get their own license, those things can push things out. But the other thing that really allows us to speed up is our platform is a global platform. It's a single code base. So it's one integration, and from that integration you can then launch into all these different markets, which is quite unique. Many other people can serve multiple markets, but often it's multiple instances of the same platform. So it might require several different integrations. So once they're live as well, it's not only the initial kind of launch, which we can do quickly. It's actually then that expansion, which is why many people, I guess, we future-proof their future business.
What can I not find out about you on ChatGPT or on the internet if I go searching?
Probably some good things. Well, I have 3 daughters, which is very, which you may or may not know. That sometimes may be found. But on a work perspective, look, one of the amazing things about Paymentology, and again, I have to credit the team that were there before me, for an incredibly global and diverse and remote-first business. I think the people we have and the culture we have is incredible. And the reason that the culture and the people are incredible is that the values in the business stem from the financial inclusion that we talked about before. And we have this a program internally which is called Changing Lives. And Rowan, the former founder that I talked about, was very adamant that he wanted to bring financial inclusion, but he really wanted to change the lives of people, his employees. He wanted to change the lives of our clients by giving them the access to financial inclusion. And he felt that we could change the lives of the communities that we work in. And being a South African-based business and really focusing on many emerging markets, we deal with a lot of clients that just aren't as fortunate as you and me. So we do probably somewhere between 30 and 40 programs or activities a year with various organizations. We offer mentorship to people that are from the townships. We offer employment. We have a number of people in the organisation that have kind of come through those programs. We go and deliver food to homeless people or people underprivileged. We go and help do sustainable, teaching people how to grow food and become farmers, because that's more sustainable than just kind of giving things away. And it's really embedded into the organisation. And actually, one of the things that is high up on my list of priorities is going forward is to really globalise that programme. It's very much historically been, I guess, focused on 3 or 4 countries. I think there's a real opportunity to take that global, and while countries like here in Holland and in the UK, we are generally seen as a more developed and lucky country, there is still lots of poverty and unfortunates around. And I think there's just so much we can do, and we're in a very, I think payments is a great opportunity to help us bridge that gap and kind of rise the standards.
I didn't ask this before, but I'm just kind of curious. The clients that you're helping, are they more servicing retail clients or SMEs or a mix of both?
It's a really kind of diverse mix. So some of our digital banks in Europe, they are, as you would expect, that it's a card on a digital wallet. It could be a savings account, a checking account, a prepaid card. But in our emerging markets, it's paying salaries onto a card. So we have 400,000 farmers in South Africa, for example, that get their salary paid. It's a number of remittance businesses. So it's overseas workers that are sending money back to family members. It's they're using it instead of a bank account where they would previously have used cash. And cash, as we know, not only has a hidden cost, but also a safety cost. One of the behaviours we're trying to change at the moment is many of our clients get paid money onto a card and they go to an ATM at the weekend and withdraw all that money because they don't trust that the money's going to stay on the card. And so it's how do we educate them to the benefits of this? But because of our global breadth, the number of use cases are just, I guess, never ending in some ways.
That safety issue, I know, is such a big issue. My brother-in-law has a farm in Tanzania, and when in the beginning, 20-something years ago, he was paying cash. And I think after the first couple of months, he figured out this is dangerous for these people. Yeah. So this is just not only enabling them to sometimes be banked, but also to not get robbed and hurt in other instances, maybe even killed.
And the trust thing is incredibly important as well, in that we take for granted that we're exposed to technology and we understand how it works, and we trust those service providers. For some people, many people, this is the first time that they're interacting and being exposed to this type of product and digital service, and so they genuinely don't trust that the money is there. They might have a balance on an app, but they're not sure that that's actually physically there. And so this education piece is massively important, and I think there's just still so much further for us to go.
So one of the things that I think you mentioned when we were talking a little bit earlier is that for some of your clients, you can back test data that's like 24 months of data in just a few minutes.
So most of the innovation in the issue of processing space historically has been around debit and prepaid. We're super excited that we've actually just launched a brand new credit ledger, which is built from the ground up in modern technology, cloud-based API first, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there are very few kind of issue processors that have this capability. And what surprised me when we started to look at the product design is that credit ledgers that exist today, amazingly, or at least it was amazing to me, are not built around billing cycles. And so credit typically is built around, your credit card at home is typically built around a 30-day revolving credit cycle. If you're doing installment credit, it's built around certain timeframes. But credit ledgers have historically taken a debit ledger or a savings account ledger, and they've kind of bastardized that for a credit product. So we built it from the ground up around credit. And so when you try and test those traditional kind of credit ledgers, you actually have to wait a full 30 days to go through that whole cycle, interest calculations, payment, and statements to see whether it worked. Our new product allows us to simulate 24 months of a credit cycle in about 20 minutes.
That's
and
incredible.
So when you think about all the different programs that are out there, if you go onto your frequent flyer thing, there's probably 20 different versions of that credit card. So you can start to test all these different programs and give greater flexibility and innovation to customers. So that seems to have piqued the interest of a lot of the people we're talking to.
I can imagine. I don't know of anybody else that can offer that, but maybe they're there. I don't know. Anything that I missed that you feel like is really important for people to know?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing I say is if you think you need a card program, if you're looking at ways to engage your clients, increase loyalty, increase connectivity. Often a card is an underutilized way of doing that. And I think as we've seen the huge rise in embedded finance, the number of use cases is almost limitless. So feel free to find me or one of the team in one of the 50 countries that we're in.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.